Welcome to a chance to chat with luminaries in e-discovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI e-discovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in e-discovery. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay, here we are. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Typically, each Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Obviously, this is not typical. We are streaming and broadcasting live from ILTACON in National Harbor, Maryland. This is the, of roughly 14 of these episodes we are going to be doing this week. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest for this episode is Nate Latessa. He is Vice President of Corporate Services at Innovative Driven. Nate serves as the more complete title, Senior Vice President of Advisory Services for Innovative Driven. In this role, he oversees ID's forensic department, information governance, privacy, data security breach, and the PRESA team, which is ID's consulting group that consists of former practicing attorneys, privacy and cybersecurity professionals that are well-renowned for their expertise. Nate has over 20 years of experience in e-discovery and information governance services and software. Nate, welcome.
Thank you, George. It's good to be here with you.
Glad to have you.
Good to see you.
Likewise. The first topic I'd like us to go into is that innovative-driven part. There was a merger.
There was.
Talk.
It was a great pairing of two companies there. Actually, it's about almost 1 year. The 1 year anniversary is this month, or coming up a couple weeks actually.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. It's been a fun ride. I think you had two great companies, two big companies that you're pulling together, and there's a lot of great synergy between the two. It was interesting. We had a lot of didn't have a lot of overlap in clients, so it was really great to kind of pull these together. And on the e-discovery side, we obviously gained a lot of firepower there, and it was great to pull that group in. But there were some other pieces that both companies really didn't have that the other did that really made this exciting. And for me, that was on the information governance side. About 2 years ago, Innovative Discovery acquired a company called Integro, which was doing information governance back before information governance was a thing for 25 years.
And that is a long time.
Right.
Before information governance was information governance.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they built an incredible business doing that. And, when they came into the ID family, it was great. It was something that we could offer our clients that they were really looking for. But the one piece we were always missing was we didn't have that executive presence at the executive level. We were kind of at the operational level in the trenches, working with IT teams to help operationalize information governance, with automation, with software, but we really didn't have that presence we needed at the executive level. With the Driven ID merger, you had this great group of consultants that were really living at that executive level. We're doing a lot of consulting with document retention policies, lit hold policies, privacy, but where they were missing out was the operational side. So with this merger, we pulled both of these great departments together, and now we've got this full suite of services where we can advise from that executive level and then operationalize all those things that they're doing.
Let's step back a little bit and break this down.
Yeah.
So from the innovative side, what was that company focused? So you didn't have much overlapping clients.
Right.
Maybe not then much geographical overlap, but it probably doesn't even matter that much.
Right.
But you were bringing different things from the different sides. So help me better understand what came over from the innovative side.
Well, the innovative side, I think we had a really strong managed review team, and the Driven side had the same as well. But bringing that together with the staffing team that Driven has was an amazing pairing. I think the Driven side actually had a really well-developed managed services offering, which ID didn't have at the time. So again, all of ID's clients gained, that product line. So it was great to kind of pull all of that together.
Not all mergers work so well. I'm assuming this one is going well.
It is. I think everyone's got their hiccups, and there's always some things. But I think when you look at where we're at, just a year in, we're fully integrated. We basically have 3 companies that are fully integrated now. Which when you have big companies like that, it's always a challenge with systems and processes and people and everything else. But a year later, we're fully integrated.
And this suggests to me that you also had either cultures of the 3 organizations that were quite similar, or even if not similar, compatible.
Absolutely. I think that's a big part of it, right? And it was that, I think when we looked at both companies, it was taking really the best of both worlds. We had, everybody was doing some things differently, but to be able to look at all of that and take the best from both companies really helped, with that integration, that merger.
What has the response been? Not a big yawn, I assume.
It's been fantastic, especially from the corporate side. And that's something that I think we've always been strong on the law firm side, but it's really the corporations, the corporate legal teams that have responded really positively. So I'm excited about, all that energy there and the momentum we've built on that side.
When corporations then come to this combined organization, what sort of capabilities are they looking for and getting from you?
I think there's a couple different things. We just recently sat down with about 40 GCs, and the one thing that we heard a lot of is they need help with document retention policies. Everybody's got one. It's either outdated or needs to be updated with the new data sources and everything else. They're looking for help on litigation hold policies. They're looking for help on M365. That was actually one that we've been hearing a lot about.
And I'd like to ask you more about M365, but we'll hold that for a little bit. So you covered a little bit, but let's say the detail for that.
Sounds good.
So policies.
Yep.
M365.
Yep. Privacy is obviously a hot topic. I'm getting a lot of requests, obviously, with GDPR, which is already out, and CPRA. But that's been a really hot topic for a lot of our clients. And interestingly enough, we're actually getting approached by a lot of law firms that have a privacy practice, but they're looking to bring us in to help operationalize that with their clients to make it real.
Okay. So let's turn to the law firm side then. They're looking for that part. What else are they looking for?
Well, data breach is big. They're looking for help with clients on the data breach side, which we've been able to help with.
What sort of assistance do you provide them in data breach?
Really, a lot of it's on the data mining side. So once a breach has occurred and you've identified which machines or data sources are potentially compromised, it's, taking the data from those machines, forensically collecting it, mining it for PII, matching that PII up to the entities so we know exactly what was compromised, who it was, and being able to produce a list so they can respond appropriately.
One of the things you mentioned in here, you threw out several things. I think I heard in there M365. I think I heard cyber in there, and I think I heard privacy in there. Let's turn to privacy now. And what does your privacy practice look like? Where did it come from?
So we actually started, again, kind of in the trenches, helping IT teams operationalize that privacy. So they had some directive from legal or from their privacy team to, go purchase privacy software and help operationalize that. And we got a lot of work there in the first year we did it. But what we really started doing was actually helping those executives create those privacy policies, not just operationalize it, but help create those, help them select the software, help them build that into their organization and make it privacy really part of, their fabric and what they do. So not just a piece of software that they throw in.
So that must mean, I would assume, the policies you mentioned earlier, the developing of them. It must, I assume, mean the implementation, assisting with implementation of policies. I would think there is some sort of testing and evaluation, sampling, whatever involved.
Well, there's always, you want to start with an assessment. Let's figure out baseline. Where are we at from a maturity standpoint? And once we have that baseline, constantly measure our progress against that. So again, a lot of times we're working with our law firm partners that are advising them from the legal standpoint, and we're assisting with those assessments and that technology.
Privacy is a rapidly changing area. I mean, GDPR took a while to be developed and take effect. CCPA moved somewhat more rapidly than that, and we've got a whole slew of other rules and regulations coming down the pipe.
Yep.
How do you handle all of that?
It's changing constantly, right? I mean, I think all of that stuff, there's a lot of similarities between that, right? And you have to start treating privacy again as part of, who you are as a business. It's got to be, in your fabric as a business. So, understanding what data you have, where it's at, just the foundational things that I think a lot of companies struggle with. What do I have? Who owns that data? How's it being used? Just starting there and then building on that. So even before you get into the specifics of the privacy, regulations, it's just doing those basic foundational things.
Does the privacy work kind of stop where it is, or is that then something that continues on to yet other areas?
Well, I think it definitely continues. And I think privacy was kind of a great catalyst for everything else. I feel like a lot of companies for too long have been able to say, I don't know what's in my data, and kind of bury their head in the sand, and I don't need to know. Mm-hmm. From a cybersecurity standpoint, we can't do that anymore, right? We have to know what we have. We have to know where it's at. We have to know where our critical sensitive data is. And privacy is forcing us to do that now. So I think, this is going to help us on the cybersecurity side.
So each one of them, in a way, cybersecurity and privacy, feeds into and reinforces the other.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, tell me a little bit about what you're doing on the cybersecurity side, or more than a little bit.
Well, so it's interesting. It kind of dovetails into the whole privacy piece. So we've been talking to folks that are breach responders or law firms that are working as breach counsel with their clients. And, where they've asked us to help out is really to help, identify where their data is, where their critical sensitive data is. So we're doing that as kind of a cybersecurity offering, but it's really that same, it's very similar to what we do on the privacy side. So it's that proactive approach to cybersecurity. And again, it's moving away from just, the perimeter approach, which is kind of, when we think of cyber, it's put a big fence around everything and we're going to protect everything the same way. It's getting down, understanding the data, understanding, again, where things are at.
How common is it, or atypical is it, do you think, for folks to take a more proactive approach to cyber as opposed to oh no, now we've got to deal with this reactive
I think
approach?
It's still a little atypical. I think you still have a lot of folks that are, reactive, and they're waiting for bad things to happen. But we're starting to see that change. We're starting to see people that want to take, that proactive approach.
There are a number of different ways of looking at privacy and a number of things that have an impact on privacy. The war in Ukraine. I mean, we hear a lot about that. We hear a lot about potential cyber related.
Yeah.
Possibly. What sort of impact is this having globally, or even all the way to the U.S.?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was talking to one of our partners. I hadn't even thought of this, but their ransomware, they said, has been way down because right now the war in Ukraine, a lot of the hackers are in Ukraine, they're in Russia, and a lot of them are being displaced right now. So one of the folks I was talking to, one of our partners who actually negotiates ransomware, he said he's been on calls where he's been negotiating, and there's shelling going on, and they're having to move. He said it's been crazy. But for as unfortunate as everything going on over there, but he said that because of the war, ransomware is way down, ransomware attacks, which I thought was really interesting.
Are you involved in that side of it as well, or do you partner with others for that?
We do partner with other folks for that.
Is it partnering with law firms, with providers?
Okay. So law firms, again, on the breach counsel side, but then we have other partners on the IR side.
And does it work both directions? Do they partner with you as well? So either one of you might be bringing the other in.
Well, and that's it. Our law firm partners are the ones that have been bringing us in. They've got, folks that are breach counsel where they'll help, manage, or they'll be the breach coach when there is a breach. They've been asking us to come in and say, hey, we really want to find a way to help, limit the impact of a breach. How can you help our clients today? We don't want to wait for bad things to happen and deal with the fallout. How do we minimize the impact? And that's where we're coming in to help.
When it's a law firm hoping to bring you or someone like you in, what are they or should they be looking for?
Well, I think the law firm or
the law firm.
Well, I think it's somebody that understands, again, data and information. I think, when you look at some of the other companies out there that provide data management services, most of it's around moving data from one system to another, modernizing it, not really paying a lot of attention to information architecture, how exactly is, to structure that data, how to structure those systems. So, for us, we spend a lot of time talking about information architecture. It's important to take full advantage of all the tools with, the modern platforms we have with 365 and G Suite and everything else. Take advantage of all those new tools out there that we have.
Let's turn to 365. Since you've raised it a few times.
I know it's a hot topic.
It is a hot topic,
yep.
And at times a knotty and gnarly issue for folks.
It is.
What do you do to help people with it?
Well, I think,
should we be saying O365? Should we be saying M365?
It's M365, yeah.
Okay.
M365. It's interesting, kind of as COVID was unfolding, you had a lot of companies that were going to 365 or starting down that path, and they had this 2 to 3 year plan to kind of get there. And that 2 to 3 year plan became a 2 to 3 month plan. It was, now we got to get there, hurry up. We've got to get remote. And, fortunately, a lot of companies did that, but the fallout has been that, they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the experience, they didn't have the background to do it properly. So now you've got a lot of teams that are dealing with that fallout here 2 years later, because now they're struggling with e-discovery because they don't know how documents are stored. They're struggling with cybersecurity. They're struggling with privacy because, again, they didn't really pay any attention to that information architecture. So they don't know how, how their data is being managed in 365. So a lot of what we're doing is helping them understand what license they have, what the capabilities are, if they're an E3 or E5, and how to best, extract the maximum amount of value from that license.
Yeah, a thought came to mind as you were talking that I came into this thinking of you more as an e-discovery company, and you are definitely that. But you also sound to me like a digital transformation company.
Absolutely. That's really, where we've kind of focused our energy right now, is helping organizations move to this modern, computing world. Where getting away from, these old dated technology. File shares haven't changed in forever, right? So helping companies, embrace the new technology, embrace, all these new features and functions that actually help manage in this world where we have to deal with privacy and cybersecurity and e-discovery.
So with that, again, digital transformation layer on top of the e-discovery layer and back to M365. Tell me a little bit more about how you're helping companies make that transformation from wherever they're at, presumably typically Exchange Server, to M365.
Well, it's Exchange Server. It's old archives. That's a big one, right? You've got a lot of old archives that people are just keeping around because they have some legal requirement to hold on to it. And when we looked at this space, especially in the migration space, what we saw is there was a lot of vendors out there that were saying, hey, we can take your big pile of junk over here on-prem and we will make an exact copy in the cloud.
So you go from a big pile of junk to a big pile of junk.
And then they don't.
Not such a good idea.
Right. And they don't, get rid of the old ones. So we've been saying, look, don't do that. You have an opportunity. It's like when you move, right? When you have a chance to clean house, let's clean house. Let's get rid of all the junk you don't need. Let's intelligently move it over here, classify it, get it into a format that is, that you can actually enforce document retention policies, that we can, enforce lit hold policies and things like that. So, we call it kind of an intelligent migration process. Let's get rid of the junk, get rid of the rot, all the redundant, obsolete, trivial data, and just keep what we need.
It's an easy thing to offer up at a conceptual level. I know it's a difficult thing to deliver. How do you accomplish that?
There's no one size fits all. And the problem is when you have so much of this old data, this rot, it's expensive. If you want to go through and do a doc by doc content review, that's just, the costs are astronomical.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
So it's figuring out ways that we can eliminate high probability rot. How can we do first pass type cleanse of that, get rid of that stuff that we absolutely rot, we don't need it, hasn't been touched in 10 years, let's go. Take that low probability rot and actually deal with that. The challenge is always the medium probability, the stuff that is maybe it's rot, maybe it's not, and then focus on that and get some highly specialized tools like a Brainspace, something like that we can actually go and evaluate that data and make a decision on it.
Do you have, speak of leading questions, any perhaps new product that you are going to offer to help with this?
We've got a couple new products. We have one called Identify, which actually helps identify that that high probability, medium probability rot. We have rot
Mhm.
recipes that you can build into it. We have a new tool called
Okay,
Analyze.
what a concept. Rot recipe.
Right.
Okay.
You gonna trademark that? I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to get to. I'm
you're
gonna have to do
going
that before.
Okay, go ahead.
We actually developed a tool. This goes back to the cyber side called Analyzed.
Mhm.
One thing we heard from a lot of our corporate clients was they're struggling with insider threat, intellectual property theft, and they were looking for economical ways to detect that before it's a problem. Right? They don't want to wait till litigation. They don't want to wait till their competitor rolls out a similar product. They want to detect intellectual property theft before it happens. But the problem was it took a lot of analysis on the forensic side to do that. And it was costly. So we developed a tool that automates a lot of that process and does a kind of a quick review on cell phones or workstations and looks for certain indicators of intellectual property theft. So if somebody all of a sudden is emailing stuff to their Gmail account, or they're all of a sudden going to Dropbox and uploading documents, if their link file activity increased, things like that, and it starts to paint a picture of all these indicators. And when you start to see that, then that kind of prompts us to go start digging in and looking a little bit deeper.
Some alarms go off, so
Right.
to speak. Yes.
But it's an economical way to do it across a lot of people
Yep.
or a lot of machines.
You mentioned earlier that with the onset of COVID, people moved much more rapidly than expected to O365. Anytime that happens, not everything is going to go well.
Right.
There is fallout of some sort. What sort of fallout have you seen?
I think the biggest thing I heard, unfortunately, on the e-discovery side, and companies, number one, not understanding what their capabilities are in 365 when it comes to e-discovery, not understanding what the lid hold capabilities are, and not understanding how data moves throughout 365. I could share a link, I could put something in Teams, I can email it to you. So, understanding all those pieces. So one of the things we've been working with a lot of corporations on is coming up with kind of an assessment, an e-discovery assessment, and a playbook that, okay, when here's your assessment, here's all your capabilities in your current version, here's how you're set up. When you do have litigation, here's some of the things that you need to do, and here's kind of a roadmap for that. So that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing lately.
On that note, and it's not exactly a migration challenge, but there is an issue that has come up and been in at least the e-discovery and legal technology news of late, which is being referred to, and I gotta say, I do not like this phrase, as modern attachments.
Yeah.
And I think these are links and links to files.
Yeah.
Are you having clients who are encountering these issues?
Oh, yeah.
Well, how do you help them, or can you help them?
Absolutely. Again, I think a lot of that is, when you look at.
Let's step back a bit. The issue is, an email message was sent. It had a link into it. The link was to a document that's in SharePoint, and it is a living document, so that I send you an email message today with a link to that. Next week, you go in and modify that document. 3 weeks from now, I get put on hold,
Right.
and someone really wants the copy I sent to you, and the answer is, too bad,
Right.
so sad, you're never going to get that.
Right.
So how do you help?
Look, all of that's a challenge, and that's where people are struggling. When you start to realize all the different combinations of how you can share data and documents and everything else, that's the challenge. Number one is just making people aware of that. There's an educational component. So a lot of what we do is talk to people and run those scenarios by them and talk about it and talk about how they want to handle it. And again, I don't think there's a one size fits all for everybody here, but it's just making them aware of that is the biggest thing. And it's that awareness that I think it's scaring people. A lot of the GCs that I've been talking to said, we don't know, we don't know how we're sharing data. We don't know where that is. And when we do have e-discovery matter, we don't feel comfortable with the results.
And yet, it, in some ways, it takes us full circle back to the early days of e-discovery. We had the same issue, the same type of issue, but for very different reasons. We'll get to an answer somehow. Any other things you've seen as a result of that rapid move to M365 and the early days of COVID?
I think it's just the rapid move to the cloud in general, and I think unfortunately, when you look at some of the tools that are out there, they don't develop these cloud-based platforms with e-discovery in mind. That's kind of an afterthought.
Right.
That's about, let's cram as much data. Make it easy for you to get as much data up there as possible, and we'll deal with e-discovery later. And unfortunately, we have to deal with that. So I think that's one of the big challenges that we work with our clients on is, when you do have an e-discovery matter and you're using one of these cloud platforms that doesn't have a mature e-discovery components or any e-discovery component, how do we deal with that? And so we work with our clients a lot on and helping them figure that out.
Any examples of how you help them figure that out?
I think it's, again,
I know it's a case by case.
It's case by case, but it's education.
But just some meat for them here.
I think it's just education. I think, some of the platforms that have search capabilities, they don't realize how limited those capabilities are. So it's talking to them to make sure they know exactly what they can and can't do. It's talking about the output and just knowing how things, threading and all that stuff works. So again, it's giving that education and working with them about how do we want to deal with this together? How do you want us to help, work with you on that?
Okay. Well, Nate, thank you very much.
Thank you, George. It's great seeing you.
Yeah, great seeing you too. Nate Latessa is, let me get your full proper title here, Senior Vice President of Advisory Services at Innovative Driven. My name is George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Nate,
thank you, George.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Sarah.